All right, you've been very patient and angry and accusatory as you wait to hear what the polyphonic synthesizer that was available in 1974 in great quantity was. And I'm about to tell you. And you're going to want to punch me right in the face, which I think is fair, at least to a degree, but hear me out. The instrument was, drumroll pre. The instrument was, drumroll please. No? Don't we have a drum roll sound? Anyway, the instrument was Baldwin's Fun Machine. Okay, oh, no, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Mark, that was an organ. How dare you? You tried to trick me. This has all been clickbait. Well, it's kind of been clickbait, but still, hear me out. The Baldwin Fun Machine was designed to be a consumer organ. You're absolutely right. But it was not a normal consumer organ by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, aesthetically, they really latched onto a very modern, even maybe the 1970s version of futuristic design. It was not in any way built like a typical organ. It was made to appeal to a much broader audience than organs typically did. And it was set up in new and interesting ways. Plainly not with the intention to do church or classical music. It was a rock and roll instrument. Is that enough to convince you? No? Okay, let's go further. They put a ladder filter in the thing. So not only are there the variety of static filters that were creating the actual timbres used in the organ, which is a thing that exists also in synthesizers, but they put a ladder filter in this thing. You know, the ladder filter like from Moog instruments. Now, I haven't examined it to see if it actually is a Moog ladder filter, and I'd be fascinated to find out. However, there is a ladder filter in the synthesizer. Now, you might say, well, Mark, organs always have filters, so what's the big deal there? No. This ladder filter also had a very basic envelope circuit that was controlling it and resonance. So when you press the one single button, auto mute, suddenly you've got a full-on 24 decibel per octave ladder filter with an envelope and resonance, creating what we know as, and which you could not dispute, are synthesizer sounds. Now, this wasn't some standalone section. This wasn't some unit you put on top. This was built into the actual instrument, making it in some way or another, follow the functionality of a very basic polyphonic synthesizer. Now, granted, it did have top octave divide, sure, but other synthesizers have too. Are you going to say the ARP Omni isn't a synthesizer? Well, you'd better not. Now, you could make the argument and say, Mark, yeah, but you had no control over these synthesis aspects, and therefore, it's not a real synthesizer. But don't make me list off all of the famous and celebrated synthesizers that had incredibly limited functionality in regard to the control of their synthesis aspects. So, all I'm saying with this whole thing is that if you were a rock musician, even a rich rock musician in the 1970s who was dying to find some way to have a polyphonic mini Moog or something, you had an opportunity that, if when implemented in your music, would give people the impression that you had a full-on polyphonic synthesizer happening, also on stage. Now, I will admit, there may be musicians who did use this, but I don't know of them. And within the giant, the cultural history of the polyphonic synthesizer, there isn't a lot of instances of music that people are like, oh, here was this, this song that had this great synthesizer sound, and it was the Baldwin Fun Machine. That just, if you've seen something like that, let me know. I have not in all of my years of searching. Anyway, basically, what I really want to say is that this instrument was a really fun and interesting instrument that was available before modern polyphonic synthesizers really became a thing. And I'm amazed that musicians didn't really find it and didn't really implement it. And it wasn't in a major pop song, or at the very least, a famous synth-based song that all of us synth nerds really love. The other thing about it is that it had a really great analog drum machine in it that was not stuck playing rumba or Dixie, although I think it does both of those. But it also did really decent rock patterns. So if you want an analog drum machine, although it certainly, obviously, it's still an organ and you can't play the instruments, the individual drums individually, still, the patterns are really cool, and you can make it go slow enough to sample them. Just saying. Anyway, so yeah, the answer is Baldwin's Fun Machine. Thank you for watching. I'll take your irate comments down below. Also, I'm Mark Doty.